Okay, I'm hand holding my tablet. Try to give you a view that I'm just trying the neck on this XGP body, and just like all the other ones, again, it's too narrow a body for the width of this heel to fit in there. So I'm going to caliper that and this again, and I'm pretty sure I measured last time without the caliper that the heel is too wide because of the polyurethane that's on it. And I thought about just removing the polyurethane, which is why those black marks were on the neck from the last time. And I actually did start to sand here a little bit, and I thought that's a little risky because this piece over here will sit deep in this pocket, but it's only about a ½ an inch tall. And then this side of the neck, some of that up here near the fretboard sits above the body, and of course it's kind of risky to try to take that down to make that fit in. So the only option I have again is to carefully sand inside the pocket again to hope I'm getting that on camera. Also inside here is little residue, which is some of their buffing compound, which I typically have to clean out of all of the pockets. So they've done a reasonably nice looking job of the routing. I'll likely have to open the holes in here again. Maybe the wire cables on these humbuckers are not as thick in a sheath as the Neovins were, so we'll just move this around and get it back over there. And a little wobbly. Oh, something under there. Okay. So I just kept the neck out to test that, and I figured that's what I was going to run into because, you know, I get every time. I was kind of hoping they might have done something about that, but I think the body was right, and I believe it was the neck that they cut to exactly the spec of 2 3/16, and then they put poly all over it, which makes it bigger than what it's supposed to be. So on with the caliper, 0 inches. And we're going to be careful not to scratch anything. .18, and 3 divided by 16 is about that, 2.18. Okay. Now that I've wrapped up the neck again, let's unwrap it. And .239, and there's the problem. That's the difference between the two. The neck, again, is larger than it's supposed to be, not as advertised on the websites like they say. So it will continue that way when they could fix that so easily and make it better for just about everybody who wants to do this. Now the other thing I noticed is that the body is fairly nice, and I think I remember that I saw, yeah, there's a little bit of swirl area here on the back, and it's kind of just a little bit milky compared to the shininess of my spotlight in the rest of it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the back. Oh, here as well. I'm going to start with the back, and I'm going to try to buff that with the Meguiar's X2.0, which I had good luck with, cleaning up the black parts, hardware parts with. And it also did a very good job on the headstock, which had a little swirl like this. We'll let you know how it goes. Bye for now. Well, what I found out off camera was that the sponge with the water diluted it too much. Didn't really put the pressure where it needed to be, especially diluted. So a shop towel, and I've completed this area down here, and I've completed the area up here around the horn, and also down here at the, what would be the top side of the guitar above the neck. There was some swirl there. I see some here now, and basically what has worked is give the 2XO, and this is the first pass, so 2XO. I tried here actually at the base with the wax alone first. It did okay, but it wasn't gone. So I decided to go with the diluted, then now straight on the shop towel. Just a tiny bit. Didn't take much. And then just work that across there into the towel. So it'll lubricate all of it. I have a wet rag here for my hand. And the towel on my shoulder. So now I'm going to just swirl this area. I actually got too much. Redo this area down here a little bit again. So I'm just overlapping the edge where the binding is to make sure I'm getting right off, right up to the black binding. In swirling manner like this. Might as well just continue to go down here like that. And just keep buffing this until the liquid begins to dissipate and disappear and starts to bring it up to a shine all by itself. Now, granted, I did use a little bit too much, I think, this time. Which may take a little bit longer. So I'm just going to move it out a little bit onto the body and blend all of this corner together. Some slow stroking in the circular motion, some fast. That's just the way I do it. Okay, so I can see that the 2.0 is starting to lose some of its lubrication, and it's starting to dry up, and it's starting to be shiny, buffy underneath that. So just keep going till it's mostly all gone. And then when it's virtually disappeared, there's just going to be a tiny little scum patch around the area on the body. Alright, so now I'll just let that dry up for a few seconds, and then I'm just going to remove the excess with another clean microfiber cloth, which will also help to buff it. And then I will still use, oh, it's open, the Dunlop on top of that again, which hopefully will bring the last little bit if there's anything left in it. Although over here it's done a really good job of that little milkiness, and here on this corner it's completely gone without the wax yet. So the wax can only make it gleam better. Okay, so gently I'm just gonna wipe that residue off of there, and now make sort of a little buffing pad out of this and just do the same thing. And that has done a really good job. Gleaming, gleaming. But the little bit that's left on here, I'm just going to do this other corner, because I don't think it's going to take much there. It's not very big where the output jack is going to go. Okay, so that corner is swirled. It's just that what the little excess was there. I'm going to use this wet cloth just to wipe it across. Damp actually. And now the buffing. Oh yes, that's quite nice. Quite nice indeed. Alright, I'm happy with that. If nothing else, the back is going to be quite nice. Eventually that will happen again as it rubs on my bigger than I want belly. Anyhow, so right, so that works. That leaves me with taking care of the few that I noticed on the front. Actually, the front is way worse than the back. Pretty much the entire front needs this treatment. It's here, it's all in there, it's all along there, it's up here and in there. Yep, it's going to need to have it. So I will do that off camera, and now that I've showed you what I did on the back, that's what I'm going to do on the front, and hopefully I'll get the same results. I'm back sooner than expected. Just sitting here about to prepare my shop towel to work on the front, and my eye just went across the string through holes, and I'm thinking they don't look like they're lined up. And so with this ruler, as I did with the headstock, put it on the edge of that one and put it on the edge of this one, and the D is too far that way, the G is pretty close, but it's a 30-second that way, and the B and the E are both lined up. So A, D, and G are not where they should be, and I was reading on the GFS website just this morning. They're saying how all these things are made with stainless steel jigs and blah 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 to their specifications and whatever. So I'm not sure how those things work, but there is an alignment problem with those string holes. I think I didn't check it on the other ones, but I did have a slight little problem with tele number 2, like this, I believe. So I need to keep that in mind when I'm doing the bridge after I get this neck pocket working, to make sure that the final alignment of where the string comes through the holes and where I end up drilling the holes to screw the bridge down are going to maintain straight string alignment up the neck. The high E and the low E are especially important. Just wanted to add a note on this after I've started doing the bass end of the guitar. I noticed that when you start on the surface that has the little swirl marks on it, when you first start rubbing it in, you can hear that little noise like it's a very, very light sandpaper, which basically what this is. And then as you continue to swirl, all of a sudden that little noise just goes away, and then you're into the buffing mode. Oops, the camera's moving all over the place. Just gonna hold that. What you doing, bud? Oh, you're really in the way. Yes, you are really in the way, my boy. So I don't know if the microphone picked up the sound when I started, but now that little swishing sound is completely gone here, and it's just gliding along the surface. No noise whatsoever. So that corner looks like it's going to be really nice. Okay, I've gotten all of the back and front done, and with the Dunlop wax. I don't know if the light will pick this up. Oh, you see my multiple lights. It doesn't exactly show what I'm trying to do. There, a little bit of glare. So, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I'm a little bit picky. I don't like bad workmanship, negligent workmanship, and I'm dealing with you know, budget parts, and I'm going to get it the best I can with what I've got and what I can do, and this is really slick now. And it's come up nice. I'm going to check the edges, of course. Oh, there's a Mr. Tiki Bear cat here. Really nice. Ooh. And then, of course, I'm going to check the edges, which will probably need a touch up as well, and I can see that they do. And I think that's all I'm going to do for tonight. I'll finish up the edges tomorrow and think about starting to do the neck pocket. I wanted to get this little segment in because between the time I've been polishing the body up and thinking about the neck that wouldn't fit in again, I remembered that when I opened the pocket for the first one on the body to make the neck fit, because I didn't want to work on the poly removal, a viewer and a commenter indicated that no standard neck would ever fit that body anymore, and that was absolutely true. However, if anything ever happened to the neck, I'd likely just go and get another XGP and put it on there, because as we know, they're all the same and a little bit larger than standard Fender due to the poly being put over the wood, which they cut properly. On this one, I decided, since I hadn't done this before, I'm going to try to remove the poly on here, on the heel where it needs to fit into the body. So I measured both sides and I taped it off multiple layers to get a bit of a ridge here, so that this is the part that will be hidden inside the pocket when it's inserted. So I taped it all up so while I'm working on it. So I've got my little nail file sanders. I've been using some sandpaper as well, and I've also used these little, what do they call these, cylinders on the Dremel type tool, which goes really fast, and the slowest I can get it is 1000 RPM, but because it's spinning, it tends to leave little divots because I can't seem to move my hand fast enough in a small area like this to get it to go smoothly. And so after I tried it here on the small side, I had to actually sand with this to get more poly off and to get it to the wood. I've got some wood showing here a little bit. There's still poly on there. I can feel it's a little uneven, which I still have to work on. So this is really a long, painstaking process because this poly is very thick on there. Like I said, it's, it's at least between a 32nd and a 64th, and it is very hard, and it's very slow to remove it, so that you end up with something, you know, reasonable as part of your neck, and leaving the part under the tape nicely polyed up, which will show once it's installed. This side has gone pretty well. More area to be able to get a good stroke lengthwise than the smaller side. I also will need to take this off. This poly is still in place here because this thickness here, as you fit it into the pocket and try to push it down, because it's trapezoid tapered here and wider at the heel than it is down this way, just that little bit of extra poly down here makes a difference in how deep it will sit in the pocket and be able to press down to fit this taper properly on the body. So not just the sides, also the bottom needs to be removed. This doesn't seem to be, it's going to be nice and flat. It's going to be easy to take that off, and I will be able to use the tool a bit, I think, down here, because once I'm here below where the nice poly will be showing, just in front of the neck pickup, I don't really care what that looks like underneath there, but I'm going to do as smooth a job as I can like that, because, you know, I'm picky. So basically just lining up these things and rubbing across the bottom as flat as you can, slowly, 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 taking off the poly, checking for smoothness. I have a little damp cloth that I also use to wipe up the dust, so then I can take a good look at the result and the grain and see how much poly's left. It's easy to tell where there's poly. It's still a little bit yellow, and it turns white where the wood is bare. But there's still space to go. I can still feel it. And, you know, as I was talking before about the neck pocket, I expect that these guitars are going to live on longer than I am, so whoever ends up with these in life will not know about the assembly way that I put them together, and if they ever tried to put a new neck on number one, of course it would not fit and somebody would be very unhappy. So this one will try to be a Fender spec when I'm done with it. Let me see if I can show this in the light that I have. The difference in color and the glossiness of the poly there, where I had to make the 90-degree angle. Quite a good lip here. Around the bottom it was a little bit thinner here than it was up on the corner, but this bottom section here, they shot a little bit heavier poly along here, so there's quite a lip there. And just at the edge of where the poly is here, there's a tiny little bit of scratching on the poly that I left. I'm going to do the best I can about touching that up and buffing it. Originally I had the tape a little bit further back, and I realized it was too far back, then I had to move it up here, and so there's a tiny little abrasion there, which I will attempt to mask with a dab of Duya on the poly I'm going to put on. I'm going to touch up this area here as well. So that'll be the next project I'll do on the bottom of this neck. It fits in the hole very well now, and nice and flat. The bottom I didn't touch; it's still fully polyed the way it was. And I want to seal this up just in case where there is maybe a little bit of bare wood. There's still a little bit of poly on there. I can feel it and I can see it in the light. But there is sections where it's down to bare wood, especially on this side. I just want to seal that up for moisture, humidity, whatever. Maybe it's all in my mind, but I just want to do that. So we'll see how that goes. Stand by. So the touch-up is complete. What I'm basically using is just this Minwax polyurethane, fast drying. Just bought it at the hardware store. When I did tele number 1, and I made my custom logo for the headstock, which I put on there and then polyed over it and then buffed and all that stuff with this one. This is what I used to cover the headstock last time. It worked very well. And as my paint, just a cap, my dish, inside my little brushes, in my acetone. So basically what I used was a small round one to, in the light, small round one, and this squarer one to get the larger size. So this did the touch-ups around the edges, around the corners, just to melt in a little poly with what was there to touch that up, and it goes back in there for now. And I've emptied out the rest. This will dry on the end of the table, and so although it won't look as yellow as the other one because it's not as thick, it's just a sealer, just enough to seal it all around. That's all I really wanted to do. And those little edges that I had sanded on the poly, I melted a little bit in there with the small brush. Although that looks like it could use another little bit of a touch-up. I don't think I'm going to bother, although it's going to annoy me till I do. For the most part, it turned out the way I wanted it to. Now with just that little bit of poly back on there, I'm going to let that dry for a couple of days. And then I'm going to try the insertion on the body again. That should have made it just a little bit more tighter than it was. But I mean, it's very thin, so likely not enough to impede the insertion. So let me just take another look at this side and see if I want to go after that again. You know, I think it's worth doing. So I'll touch that up some more, and then we'll be done with this segment. And there it is. It's in. Ba-la-da-da-da-da-da. It's in. So a little bit of an update on the build. So I'm at the point where I have the neck installed, I have the bridge installed, I have the neck pickup taped in place. I will not create the holes for the trim ring until after I've got the control panel installed and the strings mounted, so I can position exactly where I want it to be. Building this, I found a problem that I experienced on number 2, tele number 2, which I need to go back and fix, which was the position of the holes for the strings in the body where the bridge will sit and the neck pocket were not in a straight alignment, which required me to actually go on the top side here and sand this pocket open so that I could position the neck towards the top of the body to be able to make sure that the string coming over the high E and low E's were going to have an equal displacement across the edge of the neck. I did that by temporarily installing this bridge using bamboo skewers that you buy for the barbecue. So I used those to stick them down in the holes to temporarily put the bridge in position, and that allowed me to string the high E and the low E with installing just those two saddles and putting them on the body and measuring the distance. I have built the control panel. It is ready to install. It has the 4-way switch. It has the push-pull tapping switches on it. I've interconnected this so that it'll be in the forward position, neck, series, parallel, and finally the bridge alone. Now in each one of those positions with these coil taps, the volume will coil tap the neck, allowing me to have 16 overall tonal combinations on this guitar. By having neck alone and tapping it, I'll have half of that. In the second position, I will have half of that and a full bridge in series. Then I'll have the half neck and full bridge in parallel. And similarly, the same will happen with the bridge by reversing the combination. So 16 tonal combinations that I can get out of these things. So I've gotten the wires in here. I've marked the neck ones because they both look alike except one is longer. I'll have to probably cut that back to be able to fit it in here properly as I've done with the other ones. And I've also run a ground wire from underneath the bridge, which I do by inserting it through the hole that has been drilled. I splay the wires inside the full jacket somewhat and cut off about half of them, lie them flat in a little pocket hole, and then I put the copper tape across that to hold that in place that I put in the first guitar. So I'm at the point now where I have there's 2, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12 wires to solder, and electrically it should be connected. I believe, according to the diagram, all the rest of the wires here end up going to the switching, and the switching is sending it to the selector switch, and the selector switch sends it down here to number one on the volume control, and then number 2 on the volume control will be the output to the jack, and number 3 on the volume control will be the output to the jack or any of the ground positions because it's grounded. So I'm using a 0.022 tone, and I'm using a 0.001 capacitor with 150K resistor in parallel as the treble bleed circuit between volume number 1 and number 2, which is the output. And for those that don't know, that allows you to maintain good treble control or tonal control as the volume is reduced. So, lead circuit is in. So now this has to go in this hole. So that's what my job will be this evening. Now I can actually lean on this part and worry about this, and I've got all, of course, this is the other inside in the front, also all taped up, as this control panel will lie basically here like that as I am soldering the wires to them. The next step is getting it electrically connected. We'll show you what it looks like after I've got it installed. Little dab. So black, white, and red are installed on the push-pull switch. So the green on the neck is not grounded because it needs to be able to be put in series with the bridge. Neck is hooked up except for the ground shield. Okay, so I'm close to the last connections. So these little wires that come off the pickups, they're 26 gauge. So if you have a wire stripper that has the 26 gauge hole in the top of it like this one does, it makes it quite easy to strip off the ends of those little bits that you need to solder, and always just lightly tin, put a little bit of dab of solder on the end of the wire that you're going to solder to something that makes it a little bit better to adhere to the other surface. So this green on the bridge needs to go to ground. So I've pre-soldered a bubble on the, yeah, it doesn't look good to me. Okay, that's better. Just touch it. I hold the wire so I can feel the temperature going down inside of it, and if it gets too hot, well, I get the iron off quite quickly. But that one was good. It's on. Hard to show you from that angle. Let me just get the main ground on the body of the pot for the pickup, bridge pickup. See if I can do it this way. There we go, nice melt. Hold it with the pliers. The ground one takes a little bit more heat. And now, because the ground takes a little bit more heat, it'll travel down as the shield. So I just check down inside the sheath to make sure that it didn't get hot enough to melt through any of the hot wires. The body got quite hot. Okay, so from this angle, the cleanness of the wires, short, sweet, and easy to work on if it ever has to come out again. So this ground wire will have to go here. So I will do that. Stand by. In all of my excitement, I forgot something, and that was to test the bridge cup and jack in the hole at this end of the guitar. And as it turns out right now, Maybe if I move this piece of tape out of there, I can see it on camera. I couldn't see it when I was looking over my shoulder. It didn't fit in, so let's see if it works now. It doesn't go in nice and easy, so I'm going to take some time to open that hole up just a tiny little bit. Oh yes, I see there's poly all around it in there. So I'm going to just sand around inside there to open that up so that this jack top goes in nice. I'll be able to put the 2 screws in afterwards. And then the 2 wires that still have to come from the control panel will have to go out through there. So what I like to do is I like to be able to put the wires on the jack, run them through the body, and hook them up here so that I still have a little bit of play, such that should I ever have to take the jack out, take the jack cup out in order to replace this jack, I need the availability for it to be able to come out the bottom, give me the space to unsolder it, put a new one on, put the jack cup back on, and then slide it back in the body. And so for the moment I've just this control panel thing on the top so that it doesn't fall around on me. Now that it's fairly heavy with wires on the back, because now I have to actually turn this guitar up and do a little work up in here in that hole. So stand by and we'll see where we go. Okay, so I used one of these little circular sanders that go on a Dremel, and I just ran it inside and outside the hole. Just like in and out, up and down, all around the sides. And now I have a nice fit that will go in there, that I can, when the screws come out, I can just remove this with my fingernails. It's not easy, but it can be done. Just to pull that out to do any service work. So now I'll do the wiring for that and install this control panel permanently. Well, I have installed the control panel temporarily. The jack cup is now in and secured. I have tested with the amplifier the switching and tapping gently like that. Good magnets in these humbuckers. So with any luck the wiring is good. I tried not to pinch anything going in. It's now I think string time before I end up with the alignment for this trim ring. So get some strings on it and see what kind of tones it will produce, and we'll go from there. See you when I have the strings. Well, the project has mostly come to an end. The guitar is done, and I'm sure that there will be ongoing little twiddlings with setup changes as I go forward, as there was with the other ones. But she's pretty much done. Set up last night. I just kept working on it until all of a sudden I found out it's done. I was surprised actually. And the last thing I worked on was the nut. The nut and then the intonation. So basically, what did I do? I had to take on the low E string, it had to come down 40 thou to get the 0.018 or the 18th thou between the string and the first fret. And on the high E, it had to come down 19 thou to get the 16th thou distance that I wanted underneath that string. Then I fully intonated the bridge. So basically, that's what she looks like now. The black hardware, all the nice shiny frets on the neck now that they're all polished and evened off. The Wilkinson tuners. You can see the logos on the Wilkinsons there. Ooh. Okay, on the back we got the buffing worked out pretty good by hand with that Meguiar's Scratch X. It took me 3, maybe 4 passes to get all the little swirls out that were really annoying me, to get the nice buff on shine. I really like the black binding all around on this one. Got the jack cup in without too much trouble. Just needed to clean all the poly and paint out of the hole, and then she slipped right in. So there it is, completely finished. The little humbuckers are actually quite nice. This basically makes my Les Paul obsolete. It can do really good hard rock crunching. Power chords really sound nice on this one. The neck, I'm really impressed with the neck. This is the first neck pickup that I've ever had on anything that actually has nice tones on its own, clarity, not overly warm, even in the humbucker mode. And when you split it, the volume goes down because of the half coil a little bit, but you get that little bit of extra sharpness with the single coil on it. So I'll do a little bit of a, I guess, a demo after this to just show some of the versatility. And it sounds really good here, listening next to my amp. The quality of sound may not come through very well on this small microphone I use on my camera, which is really my tablet that I use to record all this. And but yes, she turned out how I had hoped, and kind of pleased with it. So it makes it different from the other two, which is what I wanted. It will be useful for different things. So between these 3 teles, I basically don't need any other kind of an electric guitar. Although my Strat is still sitting in the case over there. I'll play it, I guess, just because I like to play it as well. But I think the Les Paul one, which I rarely ever play anyway, is probably going to, again, take the last seat out of the 7 guitars that I now have, 2 being acoustic, 6-string and 12-string. So as some of you may have seen on my channel, I've used them both. So that's it for now. We'll have a demo coming up next. I'll learn to play something before I do that. Cheers.